I would like to clean up the code a little bit. So this is fine for me. I don't hate it. It could be better, but I don't hate it. The one that I don't like is that this code here is a little cryptic. I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to say const. I'm going to read it. I don't know if you're familiar with destructuring, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it like, I don't know if you're familiar with destructuring. So if you're not, I'm going to put it like this and say input. I'm going to say read inputs as a function. And I'm going to put a function here, function read inputs. And this function will return this basically. And return set up like this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it here. Oh, yeah, and then I'll need to add a comma. Okay, so now I have a function that is, it's clear what this function is doing. It's reading the inputs values, or if we really want to make it even better, we could say read input values. Values, yeah, read input values. And we can say here inputs, and then here we could say inputs dot number, and or I'm going to say input values, and then input values dot type. So this is a little better. When you come and read it, it makes more sense. So you can see here the user submits. The first thing is that we read the input values, makes sense, and then it's a little easier to read. Now I'm going to say this I don't like as well, so I'm going to replace this with something like show loading. So gonna do that here and then say show loading. It's like this, and that's what it does. And I'm gonna put show loading as the first thing. So the first thing we do is that we show loading, and then we input, and then we read the input. So now it's when you read this code, like if you read this on its own, you can see, okay, if somebody has never seen this code before, they come and read this and they say, okay, you have a search form, and then you're listening to the submit of the search form. The first thing you do is that you prevent the default. That's everybody knows that. And then the second thing you do is that you show a loading. Nice, I like that. It's clear to know what your code is doing. And then if the person reading your code is interested to see how you show the loading, they can go into it and they can see, oh, this is how you show loading. So yeah, I'm going to keep going this way, and then we do the fetch. Now I'm going to separate the fetch into its own thing so that they can see that after you read the input values, you show the loading, and then you read the input values, and then you say, after that, I'm going to fetch answer, and then I'm going to give it the input values. So let's put that in a function. Function fetch answer, which reads input values. And so I'm going to paste that code. I moved from there. Okay. Something got messed up. No, this is good. Okay, so now fetch answer, and I give it input values. So this is good also. But you would think that fetch answer gives you an answer. So instead of putting all of this rendering code in here, so this is code related to rendering, I'm going to move this out. I'm going to make this just return this. So that I'm going to move back into here for now. So we can see again, let's keep going. Now the logic related to fetching the answer and how you create the URL and everything is all encapsulated inside this fetch answer. So again, if I come to here and read it as somebody who has never seen this code before, they see you're preventing default, you're showing the loading, and then you're reading the input values, and then you're fetching the answer. All of that makes total sense. Now we come to the next one, and now we got another mess. So let's clean up this mess. Now, after we fetch the answer, what we want to do is that we want to show answer, right? So we either show answer or show error, one or the other. So we'll have to handle this a little bit better. This is the ideal result that I'd like to get to. So in order to do that, we can do it like this. So fetch answer. Again, fetch answer is, if you forgot, fetch answer returns a promise. So we have to do it this way. So fetch answer dot then we get the answer, right? That's what we'd expect. And then we show the answer. If we got the answer, or we assume that if there was an error, then we get an error message, and then we want to show the error. So when you read this code, it's so much nicer than this mess. So, I mean, we're still far from there. So let's do function show answer, and this gets the answer. And if we go back, this is what our show answer should do, basically. We should go to the answer node and then set its inner text. So that's good. Let's do the show error. Show error. And this takes an error. And then it sets the inner text to error. But also, it needs to add the danger class. So adds the class and shows that message. Cool. So now we need to also update our fetch answer function to handle its code better. I'm going to remove this code altogether now. Okay. And if we come into this, okay, so right now the fetch is just returning the full response that's unparsed. I'd like to parse that because you can't just use it like this. So let's do dot then, and then we'll say response. Oh, I forgot I've been using error functions. I forgot that some people are not familiar with this. So this is the code I copied earlier. So if response is not okay, instead of returning response.status text, I'm going to raise that as an error. So I'm going to say throw new error. Yeah, like this. So basically, this, when I throw in, the way promises work is that when you throw an error inside a promise, the result of this error object goes inside the catch. So that brings you directly to the catch. So what ends up being is that we get here an error object, and we can't just put the error object as is. We have to do error.message, because the error object contains the message inside of it. The error message is this guy right here, the status text. Now, I'll explain this code again altogether. So let's go back and see if we achieved our goal that we were trying to achieve earlier. And we said, again, the user comes here, reads search form, add event listener. So you're listening to the submit. OK, cool. You prevent the default. You show loading. You then read the input values. Nice. And then after you got the input values, you take them and you fetch the answer with them. Cool, makes sense. And then you get the answer and you show that answer. You need to send the answer to show answer. So you show the answer, or if there was an error, then you show error. This part is beautiful. This is what's called beautiful code. This is, if I may say so myself, this code is really easy to read. Now I'm using arrow functions. Don't worry if you don't understand them. If I were to do this without arrow functions, I would just do it like this. Function answer. Essentially like this. And we could do the same thing here. Oops. Function error. So it's the same thing. Arrow functions just remove the need for doing this, and you put an arrow instead. Exactly the same thing, or almost exactly the same thing. But yeah, if you don't understand arrow functions, then here's the function format for you. So this is good. We show the answer or show error. Now let's keep going. So let's go into look into each one's implementation. Show loading, again, it just takes the inner text and says loading inside of it, and it removes the class name. This we know why. And then we have get read input values. It's pretty clear. It just reads the input value, the number input value, and if it's nothing, then it puts random instead. And then people have pointed out to me before is that this is not perfect, because if you just put empty space here, I think, actually, let's test it. If you put empty space, what gets evaluated? So if you do it like this, and then let's say empty string or random, you get random. But if you do space or random, you get empty space. So we don't like this. Instead, we want to do number input dot trim dot value. And trim is a function that you can apply on strings. I'll show you. It removes the empty space. So if you do empty space dot trim, it removes the empty space and makes it an empty string. So if we do empty space dot trim or random, we get random. It also helps us in the sense that if the user puts in space 5 space, and this happens all the time, then the spaces go away and just keeps the 5. So this is good. We want this. Okay, so this is better now. And you can see we didn't notice this issue before, but now when we have our code, it's written better in the sense that it's isolated. Each thing does its own thing, and you can read it separately from the rest. Makes it easier to work with. Cool, so we read the input values. Okay, let's go back. And the next thing is fetch answer. Let's see how that one's working. So fetch answer, it takes the input values and makes a fetch request using the input values number and input values type. And then after that, it gets a response. It checks if the response is not okay. It throws an error. Again, if you don't remember throw, what it does is that it sends, excuse me, so throw is kind of like return. When you throw an error, the execution stops there. It doesn't continue. So when we throw, we are throwing this error. And what happens is that in the promise, the JavaScript doesn't go to the then case. It just goes to the catch case and skips then. So it just goes directly to catch. And what happens is that if the response, essentially, if the response is not OK, we end up sending the response status text to the catch, and we can show that error. And otherwise, if the response is OK, then we return the response.text, and we can get it here. We get the answer, and we show the answer. So show answer here just puts the answer inside the answer node. And that's all there is to it. Now let's test it to make sure that it's still working, because I don't know, I've changed a lot of things. Okay, there's actually, yeah, serious. Looks like the validation is not very good. Huh, 1 to 9 and slashes. Oh, I need to put a star here, I believe. Yeah, so the star means 1 or many, so or 0 or many. So let's go ahead and fix that in here. Pattern. Here we want to put a star. Okay, it looks like we had another error about trim. So 55 number input.trim. Oh, I put trim on the wrong place, didn't I? Yeah, I should have put this here instead. Okay, so let's go out and try this. Third time's the charm. Let's see the network. This takes forever, so slow. All right, looks like it's still working. What is it? It's the Sapphire wedding anniversary in years of marriage. That's cool. Cool. So this is all of our code. If you look at it all from top to finish, from start to finish, then you see that it's all, like each function. If you come and read each function, you can see that each one does one little thing. So it's easy to understand. Read input value, clear how it's working. Show loading, it's clear how it's working, and so on. And I know that a lot of you have been asking about how to write clean code. This shows how. Hopefully this shows that. I might have missed a few things too, not perfect. So let me know if I did. Also, let me know if you have any questions on this. And finally, it's your turn now to do your own. I challenge you to do one of these. So go back to this link. I will put it in. I will send it to you or put it in the description or something. And try one of these. Try the check numbers one, Pokemon, music match. You can try it, but it's a little more difficult to use this one because you have to log in and you have to have you have to register and you have to read their documentation. It's a somewhat complex API to work with. So if you're up to the challenge, then go for it. But if you want something easy, then stick to the easy ones. I hope you like this. I hope this was useful. Yeah, let me know if there's anything else that I need to know. Otherwise, see you later. Bye.